I never thought I'd be the guy writing one of these posts, but here I am. So, I've been dating Emily for a little over a year. Things were good, like really good. She was sweet, supportive, funny, all the things you'd want in a girlfriend. I honestly thought she was it for me, but there's a twist in my past. Before Emily, I dated Chloe, and let's just say Chloe was complicated. She was my first serious relationship, the kind that burns hot but leaves scars. When we broke up, it was messy. I swore I'd never go near her again. Fast forward to a few weeks ago. Emily started acting weird, guarding her phone, coming home late, always tired. My gut screamed something was off. And when I finally got the courage to check, the truth almost knocked me out. Emily wasn't cheating on me with some random guy. She was cheating on me with Chloe. At first, I thought I was misreading things. Like, no way. The messages were explicit though. Can't wait to see you again. Last night was amazing. You're better than him. I just sat there staring at my screen, trying to process it. Of all the people in the world, my girlfriend chose my ex. It felt like betrayal on two levels at once, like past and present teamed up to destroy me. When I confronted Emily, she didn't even deny it. She just looked at me and said, I didn't plan this. But Chloe understands me in ways you don't. That cut deeper than anything. I kicked Emily out that night. Packed her stuff in silence, heart racing, hands shaking. Chloe had already blocked me ages ago, so I had no way to scream at her. But the worst part, the two of them didn't even seem to care about how messed up it was. They went public with their relationship on Instagram a week later, like rubbing salt in the wound. My friends were blowing up my phone with screenshots. Now I'm left wondering if I was just some kind of stepping stone between them, or if I was always the outsider in my own relationship. And honestly, I don't even know what hurts more, losing Emily or realizing Chloe is still capable of wrecking my life years after I thought she was gone. I couldn't sleep for nights. Every time I closed my eyes, images of Emily and Chloe laughing together flashed in my mind. It wasn't just a betrayal. It felt like a cosmic joke, like the universe had decided to play me for a fool. I went through every conversation, every touch, every little inside joke Emily had shared, wondering if she had been sharing those moments with Chloe while I believed we were exclusive. I found myself walking aimlessly through the city streets, replaying memories I once cherished, now tainted. Friends called, texts piled up, but I couldn't bring myself to respond. I felt isolated, as if the world had shrunk into the dark room of my apartment where the betrayal replayed endlessly. Every song on the radio reminded me of her. Every place we had been together now held an echo of what I had lost. My anger and sadness collided in waves, leaving me breathless and emotionally exhausted. I tried rationalizing. Maybe they were meant for each other. Maybe I was naive. But logic didn't help. My heart still raced when I thought about Emily's smile, Chloe's laughter, the way they seemed so happy without me. The spiral of emotion made it impossible to eat, impossible to focus, impossible to remember that life existed outside of this torment. I knew I had to face Chloe. Seeing Emily's betrayal through Chloe's eyes felt like staring into a mirror reflecting my worst nightmares. I texted Chloe, keeping my hands trembling as I typed, trying to sound calm. We agreed to meet at a quiet cafe, a neutral ground where no one else could intrude. The moment I walked in and saw her sipping coffee, everything crashed over me. Old feelings surged, memories of laughter, kisses, late-night talks, all tangled with the fury I now felt. I tried to ask calmly, why? Why her? Why me? Chloe didn't look guilty. Instead, there was a smirk that made my blood boil, because she makes me feel alive, she said casually. You were safe. But safe isn't fun. The words hit harder than a fist. It wasn't about love anymore. It was about humiliation and the cruel twist of fate. I realized that my pain wasn't just betrayal, it was being erased from a story I thought I was writing. I sat there, struggling to maintain my composure, swallowing the lump in my throat, my hands gripping the edge of the table like it could anchor me from drifting into despair. By the end of that conversation, I felt hollow. Chloe had given me a reason, but it wasn't closure. It was just another layer of torment. The cafe smelled like burnt coffee and betrayal as I walked out, leaving her smug smile behind. I blocked them both. Phones, social media, every possible way to see their lives, gone. No more tiny glimpses into their world, no more reminders of laughter I wasn't invited to share. I deleted photos, erased messages, even avoided the streets where I knew they hung out. It hurt like a physical wound, each memory clawing at me, but I knew it had to be done. The first week was unbearable. I screamed into pillows, cried in the shower, and questioned every choice I had ever made. But slowly, the haze of anger started clearing. I began remembering who I was before the betrayal, before Emily, before Chloe, before everything that had shattered me. I found solace in small victories, going to work without obsessing over their social media, laughing at jokes without thinking of them, sleeping without replaying their betrayal. It wasn't just cutting ties, it was reclaiming myself. For the first time in weeks, I cooked my own meal without sadness, went for a run without distraction, started thinking about future plans again. Each step reminded me that while they had taken a piece of my past, they couldn't control my present or future. Slowly, I began to understand that the pain was temporary, but my life was still mine to shape.
Subscribe to the channel and like this video.
I couldn't stop imagining ways to make Emily and Chloe feel the same heartache they caused me. I knew it wasn't rational. Part of me screamed to just move on, but another part thrived on the thought of them realizing what they'd done. I started small, leaving cryptic social media posts, vague enough to pique curiosity but pointed enough to sting. Some lessons take time. I typed under a sunset photo, watching as Chloe liked it almost immediately. I also started showing up in places I knew they would be, not to confront them, but to make them aware of my presence. Emily noticed me at the cafe we once went to together, her eyes widening slightly, a flicker of recognition that warmed a part of my wounded pride. I wasn't violent. I wasn't even yelling. I was simply reminding them that I still existed, and that their betrayal hadn't erased me. Then came the first real impulse. Chloe had left her phone unattended at a party we both attended socially. I sent a few vague, teasing messages from her phone to Emily, messages that suggested Chloe was thinking about her in ways that made Emily uncomfortable. My hand shook. Afterwards, it was childish, yes, but it made me feel alive again. Every revenge thought that night, from pranks to little manipulations, was a dangerous thrill. I realized I was walking a fine line between healing and obsession, but for the first time in weeks, I felt a spark of control over my life again. I started planning something bolder, a small but undeniable disruption in their lives, Chloe's. Work schedule became my playground. Anonymous notes, misleading text alerts, and little pranks that disrupted her daily routine. Emily got subtle, socially awkward hints about Chloe's feelings, enough to make her doubt herself and second-guess their bond. It was petty, yes, but I couldn't stop myself. One night, I sent Chloe an anonymous email detailing intimate moments she had shared with Emily, but twisted the words just enough to make her cringe. Watching her panic, knowing she had no idea it was me, brought a strange mix of satisfaction and guilt. I knew I was playing with fire, but I convinced myself they deserved it. I also started showing up unannounced near places they frequented, sometimes just standing at a distance and watching them interact. Emily's shocked expression when our eyes met in the bookstore nearly made me laugh aloud. Chloe, oblivious to my presence, seemed tense, constantly glancing around, which fueled my twisted sense of power. By the end of the week, I realized something. My revenge wasn't just hurting them. It was healing me, forcing me to step into a world where I wasn't helpless anymore. But the thrill came with anxiety. The fine line between justice and obsession was thinner than ever. It all came crashing down one evening. I had orchestrated a small accident. Emily's car got keyed while Chloe's social media accounts were mysteriously locked. I watched from afar as panic and confusion spread, thinking I'd achieved the ultimate satisfaction. But instead of triumph, I felt something cold crawl inside me. Both of them confronted me. Indirectly, Chloe texted, "Who's doing this?" Emily called, frantic, her voice cracking with fear. I realized I had pushed too far. Their panic mirrored my own despair in an uncanny reflection, and suddenly my satisfaction tasted bitter. I started making irrational moves, like leaving cryptic gifts at their doorsteps or spreading rumors that weren't true. Friends and acquaintances got involved, curious and concerned, asking questions I could barely answer without lying. The adrenaline kept me moving, but my moral compass was screaming at me. And then it hit. Chloe accidentally saw a message I didn't mean for her to see, the one that tied my manipulations together. My pulse raced, heart pounding as the realization set in. I had gone too far. The control I thought I had was slipping, and revenge that once felt like liberation now felt like chains dragging me into chaos. I sat in my apartment that night, exhausted, both emotionally and physically, wondering if I had finally crossed a line I could never come back from. My revenge had hurt them, yes, but it had also dragged me into a darkness I wasn't sure I wanted to survive. I realized it was time for the ultimate confrontation. I invited Emily and Chloe separately to a casual hangout, a pretense for them to meet and face the tension head-on. I didn't reveal my motives, keeping my calm demeanor as a mask for the storm inside me. When they arrived, I orchestrated the meeting with calculated awkwardness, seating them across from each other, letting the silence speak volumes. Emily looked nervous, Chloe defensive. I started slowly, recounting the betrayal in a neutral tone, highlighting how their actions intertwined. I watched as disbelief crossed their faces, realization dawning too late. Then I delivered the final blow. I told them exactly how I had manipulated small events in the past weeks, the notes, the messages, the subtle pranks. Their shock was immediate, anger mixed with fear. "You think this makes you powerful?" Chloe spat, voice shaking. I only smiled, knowing it wasn't about power. It was about reclaiming myself. By the end of the night, they left humiliated and shaken. I felt a strange relief, almost cathartic, as though the years of betrayal and hurt were being acknowledged and repaid in a single evening. The following days were a haze of mixed emotions. I checked social media, noticing their silence and indirect cries of frustration. I realized the chaos I created had consequences beyond my control. Friends noticed my intensity, asking questions I didn't want to answer. I began reflecting on my actions, the thrill of revenge, the control, the satisfaction, and contrasted it with the bitterness it left behind. I couldn't deny that I felt vindicated, but I also knew I had danced on the edge of obsession. My life had been consumed by them for weeks, and now, for the first time, I could breathe freely. I started picking up the pieces of my daily life, hobbies, work, even social interactions, things I had neglected in my tunnel vision of revenge. I understood that closure didn't come from hurting them, but from reclaiming my own life. Weeks passed, and life slowly returned to normal. Emily and Chloe were distant. The tension finally diffused, leaving me with a quiet house and, more importantly, a quiet mind. I realized the revenge was never about them. It was about reclaiming control over my own narrative. I started spending time on personal growth, new hobbies, reconnecting with old friends, even dating casually. I felt stronger, wiser, and oddly free. The betrayal and my impulsive revenge had left scars, but they were reminders, not shackles. For the first time in months, I slept peacefully. I knew that moving on didn't mean forgetting. It meant accepting and taking lessons from the chaos. I had survived their betrayal, survived my own impulses, and now I was ready to write the next chapter, one where I defined the story, not anyone else.
Subscribe to the channel and like this video.